That was an incredible finish to Chapter 7. I do not encounter many texts, especially, but frankly anything, speeches, songs, lectures, even the musings of the mystics and sort of occult and esoteric that exist out in the world, that really do manage to capture the ineffability of moments like this, the sort of sensory acuteness that is coalesced into parts such as this. And I believe that the entire chapter in and of itself really did host exactly that. Whew. Many do make an attempt. Many do make an effort, I believe, especially in moments of poetry and moments of verse and rhyme and all of this, anything that has any sort of rhythm to it, to collect and facilitate the transference or some sort of transcriptance of the whole burning, smoldering entirety of sensation and reason and thought and all of it bound together into this intercatenation and fail. But I think apexed in that last line, as is the classic writer's want. Fitzgerald did it. I consider these words so carefully, as well as the gestures, verbiage that I use to describe them, because there's a sort of ineffability about simply experiencing it, I feel. A warmth, a totality of the moment, a wholeness, a singularity, I think is perhaps the best word, where it is all entirely captured together. Almost like a distillation of existence. Perhaps a drink first, and a refill. You know, it's been some time since I've had a refill on chem. Coffee, nothing like it. And for those of you who don't have the pleasures of it, I also advise, if you happen to appreciate some sweetness in your coffee, your beverages in general, tea, coffee, or what have you, I really have come to appreciate stevia. It really does the work, and it imparts a unique flavor about it. I don't think it's too terribly off topic, earnestly, to introduce a little bit of how we appreciate our coffees, our teas, and all of these sorts of things. For me, at least, and I think there is something to be said of it overall, there is a definite affiliation betwixt the lot, betwixt the literary, or at least the story, coffee, tea, and all of this together. Well, musings aside, let us carry on into Chapter 7. There were two cars, said McKay. There were two cars, said Miss... There were two cars, said Michaelis. There were two cars, said Michaelis. One coming, one going, see? Going where? The policeman. Chapter 7. Wow. Well, that's certainly one way to escalate. You know what I was saying in the last episode where we were talking about the rises and falls, the whole of Fitzgerald's work here in Great Gatsby, especially, of multiple little pyramids of, to borrow a line from Dune, a feint within a feint within a feint, really gives it an imminent sensation of reality. And this reality, it's a shocker, it's a stunner, it's a shotgunner with the way poor Myrtle was torn up. But, despite the gruesome nature of it, which it does make quite a tremendous impact, and even within that, it doesn't linger over long on the goriness of the actual occasion itself. It centers more on the effect rendered upon the engagees, ranging from, of course, those who have especially little care for the circumstance to those who have all the care, and I think you all can piece together who exactly that is. I think that's perhaps the key takeaway from this. While it did take the better part of an entire chapter, the portion of Gatsby confessing aside, almost an entire chapter dedicated to just expressing what sort of results, finalities, come out of poor Myrtle meeting her ultimate end. Giving all of that room to breathe, giving all of that mass in tangible impacts, in palpable emotions. taking all of the energy, the essence, the strength, the force from chapter 6 to immediately spin it up, to whirl it up, to whirlwind it into a storm of emotion and rawness and desperation. Desperation is the word that I think that I would use primarily to describe precisely what has happened in chapter 7. More than tragedy, more than horror, more than despair, desperation. I think that's perhaps the key. Yes, hello. Egg mentioned. Egg mentioned many times. Egg everywhere. Egg here and there. I do think that chapter 8 is very much in the same vein and continuum as chapter 7. I think it a phenomenal sort of drawing on the same formula as, in fact, a part of Gatsby's revelation with Daisy. I think that this really does take the exact same structure, starting the chapter with a bit of a breather, a little cool down, a little space, and giving it into something that genuinely elevates the climax again and again, with those little spacers in between, allowing one to taste the raw edge of the moment, while also being able to actually savor it. Instead of, as some who dive right into the pacing of back to back to back, the thickness of the event, the must of the occasion, allowing one to actually digest what's happening with some flavor behind it, some actual texture to the whole thing. What a beauteous thing. What a phenomenal thing. With such words and such compassion, such incredible reaching into the very core of human emotion and the transliteration thereof onto page, into text and word in the mind of many, to one, to us. What isn't there to be said? I truly do think that this is the perfect summation, the perfect whole, perfect simulacrum, if you want, of all fiction, of all that there is which might be conveyed. It has action, it has romance, it has drama, it has thoughtfulness and philosophy. It is, I feel, the true American classic. And I say that not as a sort of gesture to American exceptionalism. I say that as the melting pot which so many have characterized this nation as. As I say, it has everything. It has a little here, it has a little there, and it has for whatever you might wish to describe insofar as the peoples within, in whatever format you might desire. For those who might have aspirations unto, of course, any sort of game making, storytelling, story writing, or anything of the sort. Anything that involves a structured narrative with which there is some amount of engagement, be it passive or active. I would argue that this does have the step-by-step, if you're able to extract it from a given piece as it is in its completion, anything that you might genuinely need out of that, anything that you might genuinely desire to be had, especially if you're wanting to put your own spin onto things, because there are so many interpretations one could apply. It really does give a comprehensive perspective on the entirety of the events laid out here, including the natural progression of time and jumping around within that in a way that actually produces compelling nature of the story. So with that, well, because it is so generalized, therefore, you can make them more particular if you should so choose. The philosophy contained within is very much of an observational quality, an inductive quality, and I think it says very much about, well, the human condition. Philosophically speaking, I believe that it tells very much of the essence of man, the essence of society at a larger stage, and the essence of civilization further out from that. In the interpersonal sense, genuinely an insight into the heart of romance. And I don't mean that in necessarily the ooey gooey sense, although that is pointed to a few times, but genuinely the most intimate sorts of relations that you can hold between people. In fact, you could even consider it a sort of a treatise on the tenuous fickleness that arises in the world of the human heart, and I think that is not the whole, not the entirety, but certainly one of the most valuable lessons that can be taken from it, from the top level anyway. You could pick apart any one of these sentences or even paragraphs, of course, all the way up to the chapters themselves, and divine and deduce many a great thing related with some property of reality that you yourself have taken in, and draw something out. I think that's the wonder of it. I don't feel that any line was wasted here, not one, and that is the mark of truly incredible writing. I should perhaps start with a little bit of my history. This was one of the very first games that I had ever gotten into of any kind of a more graphic and less kiddie nature in my youth. That was easily my late teens. And it had always held my attention very thoroughly, given that it possessed a style that I've never seen in film or any other video game, that's for sure. Or really even any other kind of media. That sort of not entirely James Bond-esque kind of feel, more coldly sinister, very much unto itself. I don't think that there is anything else that's quite captured it. Coldly sinister style, unique amongst its kind, as far as I've ever seen it. And with that, it really gave me a lot of inspiration for other things in the vein, which might be written about or illustrated. The not entirely corporate, but in an adjacency to it. Calculated, deliberate, and chilling, which you usually see on the opponent side of the hero or protagonist in any given piece of media. But here, you playing the protagonist enables you to really make up something that is ruthlessly efficient for whatever kind of character or side you might, in terms of a faction, might want to make up. I think, and I have played this in several of my own campaigns, the notion of the ruthlessly efficient and cold hero, which leads to some very interesting outcomes. And so, having just seen it again, this little cutscene, I think it really shows intention very well. The intention behind all of those little parts that I was just describing here in my own extract. I think it shows that there is very much something to be said for the archetype, rare as it might be, and all of the animation that goes into that to get it to look something very, very close to the high fidelity graphics that you might have seen computer generated at the time at Pixar is mighty impressive. Shows how much they care about it. With that, I think the various angles, the lighting in particular, and detail on the model with the setting work in that sets the tone fantastically. Man, it has been some years. This whole bit, incidentally, this whole area, I do love it so. I find this blindingly bright room, especially with the extremely stylistic choice of the Ortmeyer logo, or Incent, being filled with his own blood on the floor. It's just truly emblematic. It's in there. Oh, something heinous. I've missed these kinds of graphics, to be honest. There's something unique about them. Hey, I'll never be able to pass up the CSAT. That's what I'm talking about. Walking through the hall, all of these clones, ripped and torn. As far as I understand it, for those who might not be in the know as I was, this is a remake of the Codename 47 that preceded it, and a sequel to Silent Assassin, the second game proper in the trilogy. The original trilogy, anyway. Where Codename 47 was a very different game in many regards, but definitely still shared some of the DNA. Hey, buddy. That spooked me as a kid. Suddenly going aggro. I had never seen that kind of reactive AI. But then, as you might glean, a lot of this was definitely new on me. And I'm glad I remembered that lean. Late. Ooh. Oh, sheesh. No. Now, I don't think it is necessary to point out the ingenious nature of having the clothes swapping system. Something very much that I think ought to be revisited in many systems of gameplay, story, well, even of roleplay. I find very little that there is the emphasis on an amount of visual indicators in many, many of each of these. Hope he doesn't come down the hall all the way. Thank goodness he doesn't. But anyhow, having the ability to take your looks and do something with them to the effect of the actual gameplay. That is to say, generally speaking, I find the lack of deception to be considered within the context of gameplay, well, of any story, frankly, to be a terrible, terrible shame.
Command to Alpha Team. Report status. Alpha Team reports. No visual.
Yeah, we got a little bit of a problem here. I am entirely lost and I have no idea where I'm going. Oh, yo, that's not good. Up, up, and away. Woo! I almost ripped in tour.
Go into the lab and wait.
Alright, I'll be good. I'm waiting. Alright, let's try that again. But with effort this time. Yeah! Yeah, there we go. Hoo-hoo-hoo. Now that's a little gun I'm happy to walk away with. Snipers and shotguns are cool, but not quite as cool as the AUG. Please do not turn around. Oh no. Oh yikes, oh jeez. Ooh. Just out of there. And thankfully, they couldn't care a lick less. Not gonna lie. Not very silent assassin of you, step bro. That first level very, very definitively demonstrates the power of stealth, of disguise, of deception, and of circumstance. Recognizing all of these things, especially if you want to use environmental helps, environmental aids, environmental tells, to get the point across. This very much, in the literary sense, I think could be applied in the fashion of something akin to Chekhov's gun, where you have what seems like perhaps a relatively meaningless detail that can be of incredible instrument to the overall story progression and the interaction of characters within that. Besides, in things that are roleplay and story-oriented, you have a good deal of, well, something that the player can interact with directly, something that they can advantage themselves with, or can be advantaged against them very interestingly, or maybe even for the opponents who are being played by, well, maybe you as the game master is the crux of what can be gleaned. I just want to also point out that little syringe, yeah, it's also not just a regular thing. Something about this entire game is that every little detail has been heavily stylized into the fashion of Hitman, which means that even by the point that we are here in just the second game of a relatively, it's not the most flushed out ever lore, even still, the game designers, the game artists, had an extraordinarily strong aesthetic in mind. Something that you can base entire pieces wholesale off of if you have a strong enough one. I gotta love that rain. They did it so exceptionally well back in the day. Look at that. They even have it react to the environment properly, where the awnings disable it from pouring through. I'm the meat man. Don't mind me. Just meeting it up. That you do. Have at, boss.
Foarte frumos, foarte frumos. Care?
Foarte frumos. Whatever that should mean. Yo. Oh no, it's the meat man. Well, that's no good. I'm gonna have to get out of a suspicious bald person. Oh no. And if so, who? Right on time, regardless of the case. Get down! Fall asleep. Fall over! Come on. Oh, man. Back in the day. Also something that you should probably keep in mind if you are going to be role-playing or writing. If you're going to have any kind of an assessment of the possessions of a given character, you might do well to have them be searched every time they enter and leave the proximity or perimeter of a place of importance, such that you need to be searched in the first place. Spicy games back in the day. Alright. My man be tripping. That would be the meal, I would imagine. What? Huh? No, I'm not suspicious. Don't worry about me. I'm just a regular little guy. There are no bold, suspicious men here. Believe that. Not at all. Don't look at me. Yeah, what up? How can I help you? Don't let me stop you. Have it your way, buckaroo. Please. I should hope not. And... Yeehaw. Yes, I understand. I'm away, I'm out. Now carry on with your business. Can I help you? I guess he thought he could help me. But... Yeah. Well, that was fast. Oh, shh. Don't look in here, please. Close the door. Yes. Close. Thank you. Woo! Okay, let's try and get out of here. Enjoy, buckaroo. Don't look at me. Bugger off. Please. Pound tile a little harder. We need to go. Let's see if this invitation will do us properly. Oh no! Oh, that's certainly not what I was hoping for. A delightful little use of back areas to enable one to get in and around. While that might not be ideal for all circumstances, it certainly allows for a more reasonable method of enabling a player or a story to progress. Whenever you have the circumstance where things are rather tightly controlled. Please. Carry on. Hey, coworker. Don't mind me. I'll just, I'll leave you be. I have nothing for him immediately. I wonder, would it be possible? Say nothing. Worry not. Puff and pass out. Anytime now. Any day now. Any moment. Very good. Thank you very much. I appreciate the little garden plants, by the way. The potted plants. Nothing like a little livelihood in your S&M dungeon. Feng shui. Well, so much for stealth. This is something that I haven't seen replicated properly since, well, I suppose Assassin's Creed or Dishonored. Very little in the vein of being able to traverse across external features like so. And Bob's your uncle. Oh. Might be. Hey, yo, no, not like that. No. All very well then. So what did the Meat King's party teach us? Much as I expounded on in the course of it, there was definitely an eyeful for all of the finer details of what you might suspect the scenery to entail. All of the manner of debauchery and vulgarities of which are not to be discussed here. here. But I guarantee, can get the implications. There is much to be said about that. The costuming, the overall design, the horror show that was finding the corpse in the upper room. But all of it adds together to create quite a rich image of what exactly this place contained within it and what it was about in its story, grim as it might be. That being said, combined with the previous mechanics as they had been established in their expertises, well, it really just goes to show further the execution of the sum of its parts is more interesting, if not more compelling and driving than if they were all separate. In review, we have The End of the Great Gatsby in all of its splendor, in all of its glimmering, all of its glory. And at least the first two of the parts of Hitman contracts. And with that, we have the wondrous, wondrous storytelling that I think serves as something of a universal template for just about any kind of tale that you would wish to tell, at least in virtue, along with the excellent stealth-based disguise and discretion-oriented gameplay, storytelling, and mechanics that you might find in these first two levels demonstrated par excellence together to make oblige contracts.